Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. This is going to be our May 2025 kit release compilation video, where we take a look at all of the model kits that were released in a given month. Again, we're behind still, but we're catching up. This is May of 2025. If you're new here, there was one new subscriber added to the channel since the last time I looked, so hi, how you doing? If you've not seen one of these before, again, we reflect backwards in this case at what was released. These are usually done at the end of the month when the box art for all of the model kits comes in, and yeah, we're catching up. By the time August rolls around, we'll be back. I mean, not August because we're obviously in August, but by the time the August video should be out, we'll be all caught up. Any rate, I also wanted to mention, I saw in the comments, sorry I didn't write your name down to credit you for this, but a gentleman had responded in the comments about the JR Motorsports Traveler's Whiskey car and the color of that, and the fact that MCW now offers the correct paint for that kit. You may recall there was 5 minutes of whinging in that video about whether or not you should just paint, clear coat over the body and then put the decals on, do another clear coat and roll with the molded off-white that the kit comes in, or would have somebody have done, a color by then? And it turns out that yes, by the time this video was released in August, yeah, there had been a color done for it. So I appreciate your feedback in that and getting that information out there for anybody who has that kit and is looking to actually paint it and not just sort of, mix their own color or whatever. We have 17 kits on the agenda for this month. 5 of them are domestic. The rest of them are overseas, as per the usual. The round 2 kits that we're going to talk about may have flown completely under your radar, as there's something that they're kits that probably didn't really trip a lot of people's triggers back when they were released this in the May, as it were. So first up, we have a 1/25 scale snap-tight kit. This is the Batmobile from the TV show, the original TV show, and this is around a 40-part kit. If you're thinking they just reissued this not too terribly long ago, that was the full detail glue kit that they had reissued last year. This snap-tight kit has not been out since 2012, or at least was released last in 2012. Keep in mind when I say last out in, that means that was the release date of the kit. You may have been able to find it after that, depending on how well stocked your hobby shop was, or how poorly the kit may have sold. So this may have been lingering around, but again, folks who are new, gotta remember, reissues are not about you, the guy that has a giant kit collection like this. They're about putting these kits back on the shelf in front of mainline retailers like your Hobby Lobbies and your hobby shops that perhaps have not had this kit for 8 to 10 years, and getting it back out for those consumers. We mentioned it in the last video. You have to remember, like 80% or so of the model building customer base is not in tune with your YouTubes, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, and all the other places where kit news and kit releases and all that sort of stuff is out there. A lot of people still to this day wander into whatever the place is they buy their model kits at, and it's like, holy moly, there's a Batmobile, and they buy it. So yes, you may already have one. You may not actually have the snap-tight version of this, but you may already have one, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing that's been reissued. You see a lot of static, especially round 2, because they put out kits every month. There was a gap there because of tariffs, and they stopped shipping kits while the tariffs were 100+%, and then they've resumed since then. So as we go through and catch up through August, you'll see there are several more round 2 kits that have been released in July, June, August. The sort of catch up the big gap there through the spring that existed. But I see a lot of them get a lot of static about the same old crappy kits. Your opinion of the quality of the kits notwithstanding, the fact of the matter is they're not reissuing the kits for you. Like, you have 10 of the 49 Mercury. You're not really going to buy another one, but that doesn't mean that somebody somewhere has not built the kit and didn't pick one up 10 years ago when it was last released. So, just a public service message there. Just because you don't want to buy it doesn't mean that it's a waste of plastic or whatever. That just sort of grinds my gears, as it were. So the other kit out of round 2 is also a Polar Lights kit, and it is the reissue of the Herbie the Love Bug version of their Volkswagen Beetle. Now, this is a much more robust snap-tight kit. This is about 90 pieces. It has an engine in it. It's probably not as good as, say, the Tamiya, full detail glue beetle, which is, a kit from the late 80s, early 90s. But, for what it is, a snap-tight kit with a couple of choices of wheels and things of that nature. This was last out in a Coca-Cola box, which probably seems like it was very recent because it got force shipped out to a lot of the Walmarts that carried models. I respectfully ask that this doesn't turn the comment section into a my Walmart didn't have models. I know it wasn't every Walmart, but it was a chunk of the Walmarts, and the Walmarts that it was in was based on how well they sold and things like that. It tends to be around Christmas, lingers into the spring, then it goes away over the summer. It'll come back again in the fall. A lot of times, my Walmart, for some reason, even though it's within, say, 25, 30 minutes of 3 different local hobby shops, has carried models for the last 8 years. Again, I realize that may not be your Walmart, but that doesn't mean that it's no Walmarts. Again, so the Coke kit was force shipped out as part of those end cap displays that they did at Walmart. But that kit was actually released in 2018, so it's been around the block a little bit, but it's not a recent release. The last time the Herbie kit was out, in terms of like this actual livery for, the Herbie, the love bug thing, was actually 2004 when this kit was tooled up originally as a brand new tool. So it's been 21 years since you could get this kit with the Disney tie-in. So you might have one, but that doesn't mean that everybody has one. Moving on to Salvino's JR, 3 releases here, all of them modern, which is to be expected at this point, I guess. We do have some classic kits coming back if you're interested in those. So first up, you have William Byron's 2025 Daytona 500 winning livery. This is the Exalta car that kind of sort of looks like kind of an inverse of some of the Jeff Gordon liveries that were run back in the 90s. It's a 25 Camaro. There was no change to the tooling whatsoever between the 24 and the 25, so it's just a rebox with a set of new decals. Also, with a set of new decals in a Camaro is the Shane Van Gisbergen Red Bull. So check that out. Red Bull licensed something. I'm impressed. This is a Trackhouse team, and I believe he won a race this year in the Red Bull livery. He's won a couple of races in the WeatherTech livery, which if you want to do, it looks like you're going to have to buy aftermarket decals for. Salvino's JR has said on multiple occasions that they have absolutely no interest in, and it may be a licensing issue of doing the WeatherTech car, whether WeatherTech won't license it or what the deal is there. Whatever that is, that version is not going to be coming. If you want to build that winning car, you're going to have to get aftermarket decals. If you want to build the Red Bull car, they'll throw those in a as a decal sheet in a box. So again, 25 Camaro is same old kit content wise. And then the last one is Josh Berry's 2025 Ford Mustang. So another release of the new tool body of the Mustang Dark Horse. This one is a throwback. This is the Darlington throwback for the Ford Lotus program that ran in the 1960s. You may recognize that if you build some F1 cars or have an interest in historic F1. The green and yellow livery, kind of cool. I appreciate the sort of vintage throwback there. It's a NASCAR throwback, so like those are either really neat because you can look at them and be like, oh, I know what that is, or they're really funky where it's like, oh yeah, this was our crew chief's ARCA car in 1985, and you're like, what? Why is that the throwback design you chose? But this one, obviously very famous, Lotus F1 livery, and again, it's another release of the Mustang body. Now, this does put you in a little bit of a quandary where if you wanted to do a 24-25 Mustang that isn't either bright yellow or dark green, that you still have to paint them white or whatever color. Remember, these kits are, for the most part, molded in color. So that Daytona car is molded in red, the SVG car is molded in blue, and this is molded in green. So, if you're a real, I hate to use real modeler, right? I just said in the last video, I hate that term. But if you're a real modeler, you can paint it. But it would be nice if they would do a white one. As somebody who can paint, but would rather not if I didn't have to. And not so much in the, I don't want to paint it, but I mean in like the sense of I don't want to have to try to cover a molded in color. It'd be nice if they did a white Mustang for like everybody, because, you know, that would be kind of cool. I believe Mike's Decal sells unboxed white Mustangs. They did a run specifically for him because, if you don't know, Mike's Decals is the proprietor, owner, and, you know, sales place of Power Slide, and Power Slide, along with, you know, Clay Kemp, does all of the decals for Sylvia and SJR, so they sometimes carry kits that otherwise you wouldn't be able to get, like the club exclusives. They'll tend to have a few of those laying around that you can't get any other way unless you're in the club itself. Or your retailer belongs to the club. My local hobby shop got tired of not being able to get the Indy cars, and actually the gentleman who owns the hobby shop joined the Builders Club so he could specifically order the Indy cars in to be able to sell them at his hobby shop, rather than it being exclusively like a Fanatics, you know, IndyCar, whatever. I'm not sure if IndyCar uses Fanatics as their official, you know, bric-a-brac sales like NASCAR does, or whatever the services that IndyCar uses. Like, you can't get those Indy cars unless you buy them from Sylvia and SJR direct, or you get them through the sales department, whatever that happens to be. I just honestly don't know, and I don't care enough to look it up, of the IndyCar series, unless you're in the Builders Club. And, you know, I'm not sure that's the best sales tactic, but they're not making a ton of them at a time, so they're selling out of them, so I guess it works for them. We could spend a whole video of me debating, not really critiquing, but debating the wisdom of the way they sell things. I get what they're doing, but sometimes it makes me wonder. We'll just leave it at that. So moving on to the over-the-seas stuff here, we have Aoshima, Fujimi, and Hasegawa, pretty much our monthly roundup of usual suspects, if you will. Over at Aoshima, we have the final kit in the Back to the Future series. This is, of course, the third movie, Back to the Future Part 3. This kit has the 1955 parts that are strapped to the hood at the end of the second movie as a new tool piece. It also has the wide white wall tires and the Baby Moon hubcaps that were added in 1955 as well. And then it has a adjusted suspension that gives it that sort of really high ride clearance that it had in the third movie, which I think is a nice touch. Now, what this kit doesn't have that the original sets of Back to the Future kits that were curbsides did is this doesn't have a set of railroad tracks with railroad wheels. There was a boxing of this that was sold exclusively in Japan through Aoshima's online store in like Yahoo. It's not Yahoo Japan Auctions anymore, but it's Yahoo like Japan retail kind of thing. There's a specific name for it. It slips my mind right now because Yahoo Japan Auctions is not like jpauctions.com or something goofy thing like that. It's the same service and the same thing. It's just got a different name to it. They offered one that came with railroad tracks and rail wheels, like a little railroad diorama like the original one did, and then it came with like a 1955 or 1985 and 1885 Doc and Marty figures. So 4 figures total, one each of the first movie and one each of the third movie, which was kind of cool. It was close to $100, but if you really wanted that specific thing and didn't want to build it as sort of the beginning of the movie car, which is the way it is, it was, something to maybe try to acquire. I don't know that they're available anymore. It was a very limited edition thing. I don't know if they sold them all. If not, you might be able to find them if you really, really dig around. I would suggest getting them out of Japan as fast as possible with the end of de minimis at the end of the month for everywhere. That would have a tax or postal payment implication attached to it that didn't exist prior to last week, but it is what it is with that. The other Aoshima kit is this, I think it's Anseltian Tuner VIP Nissan SEMA. This is a 1996 Nissan SEMA. This kit itself was tooled up back in 1996, the baseline Y33 SEMA. The Anseltian body kit that is on this was tooled up in 2002, and it's pretty much run this way a couple, 3 times ever since then. The last time that this kit was out, however, was, I'm going to say it's 2012. I have this pulled up so I can look at it real quick. Yes, 2012. So it's been 13 years since this kit was out last. You kind of have to want a VIP Nissan, right? It's not like, oh my God, it hasn't been out in 13 years. But for people who collect the VIP kits, it's been a long time since this has been out. Chances are the 13-year-old kit's decals are shot because Aoshima's decals from the 2000s weren't the best in the world. And yeah, it's a cool way to fill up your collection if you are into this style of vehicle. Going over to Fujimi, we have a Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 7 in the the Mountain Touring or Mountain Drift King series. This has the new Easy Alignment System chassis underneath of it, which is made specifically for the Evos. It kind of updates the chassis a little bit in the sense that all of the Mitsubishi Evos that Fujimi has made prior to this new chassis being created were all on the Evo 3 chassis, which was not necessarily correct for, say, an Evo 9. So this has a more modern, updated, if you will, Evo 7 and 10 to 9 sort of chassis. They'll probably shove it underneath everything because that's Fujimi, but at least it's a little more of a representation of what it should be in these later Evos. Other than that, the rest of the kit exists as it always has since it was tooled up. Then you have this, also in the same Drift King series, the Fairlady 300ZR. This has the Easy Alignment System put underneath of it, and this has a carbon hood decal. That's the shtick of this kit. This kit's been around quite a while. It does have left-hand drive in it, if you're interested in that, but then so does the actual Tamiya kit. That would be 100 times better than this, but these Mountain Touring King, whatever they're calling it, they're pretty cheap. They're running around like $13 a piece. If you miss the reissue of this kit when Tamiya reissued them, when they put out the new Fairlady Z, the 400Z, if you will, the new car that's out, it could be $35+ to get one at this point because it's been out of production for like a couple of years. Then we have the Nissan Skyline 350 GT / Nismo. So this is a combination kit. The difference between the stock 350 GT and the Nismo are bumpers, a rear spoiler, and wheels. Other than that, the two kits build up identically the same. This again has the shtick of being the 40th anniversary, which has the knockdown display case with the 40th anniversary Nismo logo on the case floor. Pretty cool kit. It's tooled up in the mid-2000s, so it's actually a pretty nice kit overall. It's a Skyline after the Skyline split, right? The R34 existed, and then the GTR, what everybody calls the R35 GTR, showed up, and that was on a completely different chassis platform than the actual Nissan Skylines were on. The Nissan Skyline continues as like a 2-door, 4-door, mid-size car to this day. It didn't just disappear in 2002 when the R34 went away. And then we have this, which is an initial D series branded kit. This is a Nissan 180 SX. Much like the kit we just talked about last month, only this is a early or mid front bumper and rear fascia treatment. This is Kenji's car from Initial D. This again has the Easy Alignment System underneath of it. The little circle up there in the top right indicating that the headlights can be flipped up or down depending on how you want to run it. And otherwise, it is what it is. I would expect some point in time in the near future, I have no knowledge of this, but I would expect that Aoshima will eventually do this themselves because they've got that brand new Tool 180SX floating around. There are 2 different body kits for that are going to drop. One will release in August. The other one is going to release towards Christmas. And I would expect at some point in 2026 you probably get an Initial D version of it, if I had my guesses. Going over to Hasegawa. First up, we have the Nissan Pulsar GTR 1992, easier for me to say, Portugal Rally Group N. So Group N is the near factory stock specification. So not a lot of tuning done to this. Stripped out rally interior, but very stock car otherwise, right? Racing exhaust, fire bottles, all that sort of stuff that makes a safe car, but not a lot of extra engine oomph, if you will. This one is disappointing in the sense of what it's missing. Okay, so let's study the box art here. Underneath the 22 on the doors, there's a SG Gigante logo, or Gigante, however they pronounce that in France specifically. I don't care. That's not the point. The point is that decal's not actually in the model kit. That is a tobacco livery. And while it is on the box art picture, they clearly forgot to edit that part off. That is not actually in the decal sheet itself. Now, Rege models out of the Czech Republic, Czech Republic, almost said Czechoslovakia, wrong country, Czech Republic, made a fill-in sheet for, I believe it was the 92 Portugal Rally Group A car that has that just that logo. It's like a $3 sheet of decals that has the little SG Gigante logos for the door placards. The problem with that is, if also continuing to look at the box art here, you see that big fluorescent red box beside the 22 to the left of it. It's also on the hood right above the grille. You can't see it, but it's also on the roof. Can't see it, but it's also on the rear bumper. That, my friends, is a Marlboro logo. Oh no, this is double tobacco liveried, and there are currently no decals available to fix that. Now, obviously, you could probably scale some Marlboro logos. Obviously, the red box has been rectangled off, so because even that peak is copyrighted by RJR or whatever the hell Reynolds Tobacco's calling itself these days. So that should have like the little triangle and then Marlboro written in it. It's a big decal. It goes from that rectangle all the way down to actually the body character line, the side molding. So it's a big Marlboro, the big Marlboro logo, and then slightly smaller ones on the trunk and the hood. I have been in talks with Rege to see if they're interested in doing a filler sheet, because they already have the SG Gigante logo made, so this would just be adding in the Marlboro logos. I have to get back with him to see what he needs to make those, because it's a question of what the decals measure out to be. Looking at them in a picture, it's like, oh yeah, it should be that big, but I don't think he has a Nissan Pulsar model kit sitting in front of him, so I need to measure out the decals and get that information to him. But know that going in, that you cannot actually build this car as it really ran, because the tobacco liveries are missing. Then you have this, the Nissan Sylvia late version HT Turbo ZSE 1981. We're filling the top of the box art, as Hasegawa is prone to do. So this is a modified reissue, of course, of their kit that came out of, I guess it would be a year and a half ago now, because it came out at the end of last year. And this has new front rear bumpers, a new side molding, has a new 5-speed transmission. They call it a shift knob in the English translation, but it's a new 5-speed stick, a new exhaust pipe, and new wheels, along with obviously the decals that go to the 1981 car. So, it's a couple of parts runners of new parts. The mirrors are new, and I think there's there's more new to the interior than just that. Anyway, it updates the car to the spec that it ran towards the end of its model cycle. I think 1983 was the last year of this body style Sylvia, and we'll see what else comes out in terms of that. The way Hasegawa goes, they tend to release like one of every little thing that has ever been done, and then of course throw resin parts into it. Next up, speaking of resin parts being thrown into something, here's a Toyota MR2 AW11 late version G limited supercharger custom version. There's so much crap up there, I had to drop it onto a second line, and then they didn't center justify it. Alright, so the Watanabes are thrown in here from another kit, and you get this custom front lip spoiler, which is a resin piece. Otherwise, the ground effects and things like that are in the kit already. It looks kind of, a little badass, if you will, in that graphite gray. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like this. I'm not a real big fan of their chin spoiler things most of the time. This one, not too terribly bad. Not great, but not too terribly bad. Overall, it gives a good look to this. The kit itself is what it is, if you will. This kit came out, I think, 2.5, almost, well, I should say 3.5 years ago now, and they've been poking and prodding and doing little different versions of it ever since then. This is just the latest version of that, and yeah, if this look appeals to you more than like the stock version did, I'd pick one up. Hey, you'll enjoy it. The new Hasegawa kits are really pretty decent. They're not Tamiya level, but they're like one notch below. Speaking of which, here's something that has a little bit a different viewpoint on things. It's a BMW 2002 Tii late version with big bumper. I don't know why bumper isn't capitalized there. Apparently, that's not a proper noun. The different approach taken by Hasegawa here is this represents like a late version of the 2002 with the 5-mile-an-hour bumpers attached to it. So this is like a 75 or maybe even a 77. All of the late model parts, and this includes the front bumper, the rear bumper, the side lights. If you look at the box art there, the side turn signal lights, or the lights I should say, below the turn signal, and back there behind the back, above the back bumper, the actual turn signals themselves, which is really annoying, and then also another piece of side trim that goes behind the rear wheels, are all done as printed 3D resin parts, which in and of itself wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. However, anybody who's built something like this in the past knows that painting a solid piece of plastic that is not a clear piece and making it look like a clear piece is sometimes not exactly the most practical thing in the world. It's possible. It can be done. People are laughing in military right now because obviously every light in military, very, very little of it actually has clear pieces to it because most of it's so small in even in 1/35 scale that it's just easier to include it as a plastic piece and have you do your due diligence on how to fix it. Now, obviously, the best way to do this is to chrome it or silver it somehow. Chroming it will probably be the better solution here because the bezels around these things are chrome, and then painting clear orange or clear red or the necessary colors over top of it. The bumpers are going to be the same thing. You're going to have to chrome plate the bumpers and then paint the black on, or paint the black on and then chrome plate the bumpers. However you want to run that, in ease of assembly, if you will. But there's a lot of work that's going to go into making those 3D parts look good. They're not crappy 3D parts in the sense of like they've got rasta lines and they're malformed or anything else like that, but it's just kind of unfortunate. I would have preferred they do the clear pieces at least in clear. You want to throw the bumpers on in 3D print, cool. I can understand not wanting to tool up a set of bumpers for a late model 2002, and this certainly saves them quite a bit of money in not tooling up parts, but it's I don't think it's something that a lot of car modelers have really dealt with, unless they also build armor and aircraft where you're used to trying to make a solid piece of plastic look like a light. So buyer beware if your skill set cannot support the techniques required. Then we have this Nissan Fairlady 240Z quote-unquote wire wheel. This is basically the Mr. K car reissued in a different color. You may recall several years ago now, maybe 4 or 5 years, they released a 240Z Mr. K edition, which was a left-hand drive 240Z that was the personal car of the president of Nissan in the United States. It had the ZG nose on the front, which is the one obviously with the aerodynamics on it, which was an over-the-counter piece that you could buy through the dealership, but could not be installed at the factory because at the time you couldn't have composite headlights in the United States. That was against federal law. So this is that car molded in silver. It still comes with all of the left-hand drive parts, so if you didn't get the banana yellow one and you missed it entirely, you can pick up this one and you could build it left-hand drive like you would if you owned and it does have Datsun logos, by the way, so you can build it as a Datsun 240Z with the over-the-counter ZG nose, which is kind of cool. And yeah, otherwise it's a curbside kit. Is the Tamiya ZG and Datsun 240Z a better kit? Yes, indeed, it certainly is. But this is a curbside, easier, quicker build, and you can't get a set of wire wheels with the Tamiya kit. Then we have this, and I believe this will be the last kit, and it is. This is the Trust Corolla 11 AE101 1992 Macau Gia Race Much like we talked about last month with that Toyota Supra, this is a late 1992 season. So Trust ran this car in Japanese touring in 1992. After the season was over with, it was deported, if you will, to Macau and ran the Ghia race of Macau. And this vehicle did not finish. It is the first car that did not finish, in the sense that it was like the first car not running. I'm not sure that really makes the driver feel much better about that situation or not. It basically finished 14th, but if you know anything about like how touring cars and GT3 and all that stuff is scored, if you don't finish, you're not classified, and so technically you don't have a finishing result. But I believe there were 13 cars left running at the end of the race, and this would have been 14th place when he was done. Everything else in this kit is the same. A101, they tooled these wheels up probably 4 years ago, and they've been in a bunch of different Hasegawa JTC cars since then. And so basically just taking, and they just did this car not too terribly long ago in the Trust livery for the 92 JTC season. So that's pretty cool. You can build both of them and set them side by side, I suppose. But so this is just like a very minor modification to that decal sheet, and out the door you go with a new kit, as it were. So that, boys and girls, wraps up the month of May. Tune in next week as we go to June. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the other side.